This is Making Light. Julie Hurt and Kate Fogger are soul-level intuitives and animal communicators. This show is about us sharing our experiences in the hope it will help others along their path. So let's go make some light.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Making Light to Humans Being. I'm Julie here. With me, as always, is the fabulous and ever so insightful Kate Foggo. It is January 2024. I don't know if you've heard this, Kate. It is actually the rise of the light worker. And 2024 is actually an 8-year, which means strength and all these different things. So yes, here we go. Okay, so hi everybody, welcome back. So what we usually do and what we've been doing of late is taking a workaround behavior for the month and then looking at it every week through the lens of a negative belief. We, in our soul level intuitive coaching work that we do, there's typically 4 negative beliefs that we work with. There's many more, but to some degree they all laddered up, which is not safe, supported, protected, not worthy, not lovable, not good enough. We're going to do a little bit of a different thing today because we're starting a new theme. But what we thought we'd do is also show you a little bit of what a soul level intuitive coaching session would look like, so that maybe you get a sense of some of the vernacular that we use, have a little bit more understanding of how this works and how we actually come up with these. We don't come up with them. Your soul talking to our guides comes up with these. So, but we'll give you a little bit of an example. We're going to do a tiny mini slick session on each one of us around this idea of where are we struggling with giving and receiving. So we've kind of jumped ahead and identified a workaround behavior that we keep bumping up against. What we thought we'd do is just kind of walk you through the whole process of where we would get to giving and receiving, so you have a chance to see it as well. Makes sense? Am I making sense, Kate?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to do a little slick session on Kate first, because giving and receiving was something that giving and receiving was something that Kate came up with at some point in December, because you were struggling with giving and receiving. I forget which way it was. And so we thought, oh, let's put it on the schedule for January. So we're going to take a step back and do that little slick session. And then I know that I have the same workaround with other aspects of it. So she's going to do the same for me. All right. Okay. Here you go. Okay. So any questions, any comments, Kate?
I was just saying, I think how it came up, I think how it came up was, came up about giving presents to neighbours. Like, I don't really do the present thing. For me, there's a whole lot of workarounds in there. You know, if I'm going to make the effort and give somebody something, it has to be something that's meaningful. I don't like just buying shit and giving people shit. Like, it becomes a whole thing, which is why I'd really rather not go there at all. And on the receiving thing, like, God forbid somebody gives me something and I haven't got something ready to give to them. You know, I can't do that iniquity thing. I'm terrible. Don't ever give me anything. I'm not, I'm not thankful. I'm like, what the fuck have you done? You've upset the balance and now I have to pay you back. So, and it's awful when you have people who are generous. Like, for me, I can't just go, oh my God, thank you. I have to go away and beat myself up about how am I going to repay this massive gift. So I take all the joy out of giving.
So as you were saying all that, I was just asking the guide. So for me, when I do intuitive work, even with animals too, like the human talks, and then whether it's animals I'm connected to or the guides, they are like right here on my right hand side, and they're like starting to respond. The guides actually start to pull out little threads too. Anyway, it's a whole thing. So but as you were talking and I was asking them, because the first question we asked them is, what negative belief is this that we're working on right now? Now, I will say we are working on any and all of the 4 negative beliefs at any given time. So they're very good about keeping us present. So they'll focus on the negative belief that we're working on in this very moment with this gift giving thing and all that type of stuff. And the biggest negative belief that they want to talk about today, as far as that goes for you, is not lovable. Does that make sense?
It does. I was, well, there's so many, aren't there? But
yeah.
Yes, I can make sense of all of them. I think, yes. as in not worthy, I'm not worthy of receiving this, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to make the right choices. But not lovable probably cuts to the heart of why you give me a gift. Like, if you're giving me a gift, then there's some transaction. I can't, it's an inability to just accept that maybe someone wants to give me a gift, which I will say at Christmas, it is a societal pressure. But I also have my lovely friend Fiona, who I swim with. She's really generous and she just gives me things, like she's not obligated. Whereas at Christmas there is a sort of obligation. She'll just give me stuff, and then I go into some tailspin because I really want to give her something. So yes, that is not lovable. It's like what I can't accept that maybe someone just wants to give me something.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm hearing them say, they're being a little funny right now, is they're like the not lovable negative beliefs. That's what gets y'all twisted up in your knickers.
Well, we all know what that's like. Yeah.
They, they make me laugh. Okay. So the next question though that we ask the guides as we get started on soul level intuitive coaching is, what age did this negative belief germinate for you? And so I'm going to ask, oh, interesting, because at first they weren't moving off of 0, and then they switched it up to 2. What was going on at 2? Do you remember?
All my stuff comes up between 0 and 2. I usually just say 2 because it's easier. Don't know. Like a lot of people with the same background as me, I have very little memory of anything.
Do you have a specific? Yeah.
I don't remember much at all.
What was going on in your life at the age of 2, particularly in terms of your sister?
Okay, so was it age 2? I only know a handful of stories about my sister. I don't think I was particularly welcome because she was the older sister, which is understandable. She did push me, but I must have been still in a pram, so I'd have been younger than 2. She pushed me down a hill, apparently. Fair game to her, it's competition.
Interesting.
But you see, I would have been too young to understand anything like that. So I don't.
And that's the brilliance of the intuitive coaching part, because you don't necessarily have to have the memory, but the stories that are also things that first pop in your head. And then we get to take a look at those factors around it.
So intuitively, as a baby, knowing what I know about my mother, I would have felt like a burden to her.
The guides wanted you to focus on your sister.
On my sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this pushing down, or this competitiveness that was building, I'll say, this is what they're sharing with me. This competitiveness, this give and take, this equality or not equal was getting really pronounced. And nothing against your fabulous sister, right?
Listen, you have to fight for every scrap of anything in our family. I totally get it. I imagine the very little attention that she got, now she was sharing with me. There's no hard feelings there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't have any conscious memories of that age.
Okay. But knowing, here's what the guides were leading us through. So that we've got the age, we've got some aspect of this pushing you down the hill story, to which the guides responded. Competitiveness is the word that they keep bringing through. So what they want us to do, the next thing, is just to take a look at the influencing factors. So to look at your energy at the age of 2 and look at your sister's energy. And I do feel like your mom's as well.
I just want to say, actually, because I feel bad, actually. When I say that little attention, I'm sure my mom was very attentive. There's just no fondness or affection or anything. She was a very good mother in terms of feeding us, taking care of us, being present with us. I would give her that, but it just wasn't. It wasn't what you would associate as love as a child. That it was duty.
The snuggles weren't necessarily there. Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually, I'm glad you said that, because there's also this aspect that I want to just make sure that everybody understands too, is when we take a look at the situation, when the guides say the age and then the memory comes up or the story comes up from that time, and then we look at what we call the influencing factors. So your energy, your sister's energy, and your mom's energy in that situation, we're not looking at it from a place of human judgment. We're looking at it from a place of love. They have situations and legacies and whatnot that they bring to a situation that influences it as well. What intuitive coaching is trying to do is have us understand from either like however you want to look at it, higher level, or from like a place of being back and observing. Oh, I can see why. And that then brings about compassion for ourselves as well as the people around us. So there's no judgment whatsoever because we've all got our own proverbial shit. But to understand what that shit is and also where the shit comes from can really help open us up. At least that's been my experience. And I dare say yours. I see you nodding. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Yeah. Okay. So when I look at your energy in that age when you're 2 and this whole competitiveness thing, I just see you as like this. They're showing me you as like what we would call in the US a tomboy. And and I see the word like scrappy, like, and no one can take you down. Like this is like, and you will not let that happen. And it even creates this whole feeling of like, I can feel it all through oddly enough, because you and I were talking about your sacral chakra earlier, but your sacral and even a little bit your solar plexus, but really in your sacral, like you will not, this is, like you're just kind of, but it's not in your root chakra, it's in your sacral, it's right here. Like no one's gonna mess with me, no one's gonna take me out, and I'm just as good as everybody else. And I'm gonna scream louder than, I even feel it up here in your throat chakra, like even I'm gonna scream louder than anybody else. I don't think that makes sense to you.
I was, I guess I was definitely a tomboy, and I guess I would have been called like I was called labeled a troublemaker. I was really like, you don't fuck with me,
Mm-hmm.
which is why it's so odd as an adult that I've realized I have all these insecurities, because as a child I would have been totally unaware that I had any insecurities at all, because I was a really ballsy little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody messed with you. And then when I look at your energy vis-a-vis your sister, like it's that song, I can do anything better than I can do anything better than you. Like it's this, and she'd be like, no, you can't. Yes, I can. No, you can't. Yes, I can. No. And then it's just this. But for her, when now I'm moving like to her energy a little bit, for her, there's a sense of play to it. And for her, in response to you, there's a sense of play. And okay, let's see what you can do. Okay, let me raise the bar a little bit for you, Kate. Okay, let's try this. Let's try this. There's also a sense of making sure that even while she's raising the bar for you, she also there's a little bit of a sense of a moving bubble around you that she provided. Like, yes, I'm going to make sure I'm going to push you, but I'm also going to make sure that you don't break a limb at the same time, is what I'm hearing. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, it might well be true. It's not how I recall it. You see, I can only, the only memories I have are in hindsight looking back, which is not the same as what I experienced, because I know now my sister's reaction to how she was growing up is I always thought she was really like quiet. She was always really, really quiet. And actually I was more protective of her, but I don't remember it. That's what I'm saying. It's different looking back as an adult, what I felt at the time. It's quite possible that that's exactly what it was like. I just can't, I'm trying to think. I just can't remember. I just felt like, because most of the memories I have of Stella that I do remember was quite a lot older than that.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, where she was perhaps not so kind to me out of fear, I think. But as a baby, I don't know. I do remember Mum saying that Stella was actually really pleased to have a little sister.
Mm-hmm.
That, but
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, and when you say that last bit about pleased to have a little sister, and I'm really focusing, or they're having us focus really on the age of 2 and like you running around and she's like, okay, I see you. I see what you can do. Okay, let's go a little further, but still kind of making sure, like I just keep seeing this like energetic bubble around you. And if, people can't necessarily see me when they're watching the podcast, but I'm like creating this circle with my hands. It just kind of keeps moving and shifting around you. Pleased to have a little sister. Yes, absolutely. And there was something, this lack. So this is where to some degree your mom comes in, this lack of what we would expect from a female, this nurturing, which is really interesting. This is really interesting too for you, Kate. So we have society has these ideas of feminine being nurturing, though they want to use the word cuddling, whatever. So the fact that your mother didn't necessarily do those types of behaviors, Stella was like, and Stella, sorry to use your sister's name, so she didn't necessarily receive that from your mom. She was able to give it to you, as well as you
Oh,
trying to figure out how to give it to her.
oh,
Mm-hmm. So this is where this giving and receiving thing to some degree begins. The other thing that's really interesting, this is what I was talking about when I said, oh, this is really interesting. Your mom, so what they're sharing with me is that your mom actually embodies more of the masculine qualities of motherhood. Like
totally.
you were saying too, right? Like I will care for, like when you were talking about your mom earlier, they kept showing me a lioness. So a lioness makes sure that her cubs can, or kits, are they cubs? No, they're lion cubs. Cubs can hunt, can fend for themselves, that they don't take any crap, like all this type of stuff, which is we would think of in our society, Western culture, that it is more the females wouldn't necessarily do that. The guys would do that, but the guys wouldn't necessarily teach a girl that because girls aren't worthy. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff wrapped up in there that they're just kind of putting together as like a little bow and putting in a Christmas box wrapped up for you. And they're putting it over there. Okay. Okay. So what the guides are like moving to next quickly to like, so knowing this about your sister and that to some degree, for lack of better words, you filled a void for her that she wasn't getting from your mom by allowing herself to express love, care, all this type of stuff that you weren't going to get from your mom either, that she knew you weren't, but and that she could fill it, but that also she was hoping she could get it back. But just being able to do it was enough of a gift. Does that make sense so far? Okay. So in that, knowing that, what the guides are saying is that's where the workaround behavior of not wanting necessarily to give or feeling uncomfortable about giving and receiving begins, because your sister just automatically gave it to you. You were, I think I just need to do, because you have other memories of this point in time of like more, they're showing me like you more like fighting or resisting.
Okay.
And then at the same time, you do recognize, like to this day, you recognize your bond with your sister. And am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? Am I just, did I do it from a lovable perspective? There's how do I want to say this? From a lovable perspective, am I doing enough to earn that being lovable? Does this make sense?
It does. Yes.
Okay. Is there anything you want to unpack for anybody by chance? You don't have to, because this is you. This is for you.
It's a really interesting view on my sister, because as I say, I have no memories of it. I have memories of when we were a bit older, and that's very different. But actually, that makes a lot of sense, and that's actually really sweet, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But what I guess I don't see how that. Why does that make me uncomfortable with the giving and receiving?
So from a not lovable perspective, receiving, or like pulling it together, like receiving what I'm hearing them say, it was simply like given to you, right? You didn't ask for it. It was just given to you. The way she cared for you, the way she tried to shape you, the way she tried to nurture you, all the things that she tried to do. So it was just given to you. In effort for you to receive it, you were just like, I can fight my own way, I can do my own thing. Like there is this that aspect. To some degree, because you didn't know what to do with it. You were just coming into human form. You weren't like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, wait a minute here, kind of a thing, because you weren't getting it from your mom. So it didn't feel natural to you.
Do we not come into the world just accepting love from everybody then?
Did we what?
Do we not come into this world until humans fuck us up? Do we not come into the world being happy to accept love from everybody? But I suppose my mother had already fucked me up by then.
Well, no, I wouldn't say fuck us. You say whatever you want. So yes, you come into this world, and then slowly, usually what we find is between the ages of 0 and 5, some of that gets chipped away and become more of a human and more separated from the divine until, all the things happen. Which would be like, middle-age crises like we've had. Anyway, that's not to say that this not lovable for you in different workarounds that could have started different points in time. To focus just on this giving and receiving, it really became more aware for you not being lovable at this age at 2.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The giving. So yeah. And then giving back, it just, how do I want to, like, it wasn't clear to you how
Well, that's just
to
it. I
give
don't
back.
understand the rules.
Exactly.
And I guess that's actually what you're saying, because with my mum, everything was transactional. There was no offering of just love. Therefore, for me, I don't know what to do with it when I get it, because to me, it's a transaction now. You gave me something. It's like somebody giving me something physical. Even if someone gives me love or attention, then I am obligated to give it back, because there was never anything that just flowed naturally for me as a child. There was no affection, no fondness, no. I remember saying even as a child, oh, I know my mother loves me, she just doesn't like me very much. Because love, my mother told me that parents love their children. It was a word, it was a rule, but there was nothing tangible behind it. So I learned that law. Parents love their children. But I picked up on the fact there was no fondness because I knew she didn't like me. That's really sad for me, actually, because I would rather be liked than loved, to be honest, because that's anyway. So yes, okay.
So does that bring just a little bit of clarity? I feel like when we go through this month, there may be some more clarity around giving and receiving, because this is actually going to be, I feel like, a really good topic this month, because I feel like it's going to hit on all the negative beliefs.
It's also this time of year, or what we've just been through, the whole thing at Christmas. Gift giving is one part of it, but also just being with family, and giving of yourself and receiving people, and spending more time with people in relation, all those sort of things come into focus this time of year.
Yeah. You just reminded me of something, a movie that I watched, but it doesn't have to do with this conversation, so we'll bring it up when it's appropriate. They're going to remind me, the guides. But gathering of people. Well, so does that help so hopefully, does that help a little? Is there anything else you need to share about any of that?
I don't think so, not at this point.
Okay.
So do we want to talk about what you would normally do in a slick session at this point?
Yeah, so then we would take a look at, now that we've taken a look at what negative belief, we figured out what age, there's this competitive story between you and your sister. We unraveled that a little bit as far as the energies around your sister, yourself, and even your mom. And with that, then taking a look at that workaround behavior of these issues with issues is the word. Sorry, there's only so many words, right? We can use, but this issues or stickiness around giving and receiving for you, which is these workaround behaviors of that came from before. You didn't know like what exactly am I receiving and why is this happening? And then how do I even give? This is how this starts because it's just your sister did it and you didn't know the rules and all that. So we would then go deeper into that giving and receiving workaround capsule, if you will, and even pull out possibly even more smaller workaround behaviors to kind of help unlock that larger one. That's what we typically do.
And that's the magic with this, isn't it, Julie, is you get to these really small workarounds that are just, once you can see them for what they are, positively ridiculous, some of them, it actually lightens the whole thing. That's really the point you want to get to, is where you see all these tiny little behaviors that you do and they become almost laughable at some point. And that's the beginning of the unraveling it, that you start to see it as just a behavior, that it's not, it does not define you or who you are or how you're going to live your life. And once you start to see that, then they start to unravel. And then there's another.
They're the gifts that keep on giving. Yeah, because there's always something else. Yeah, which is why we're here, is to understand all of these things, even create within them, about them, around them, for them, with them, whatever proposition you want to use. Well, any and all, that's the human existence. That's why we're here, to experience all this as entities of the divine.
Little sparks of the divine. That's what my first teacher Annie used to call us, which I think is lovely.
Yeah, me too.
We just put ourselves through so much shit. That's what I don't understand. It's almost like they say that when we come through the veil that we don't remember, because we want to experience life as humans and uncover it as we go. And you think, yeah, but give us a clue, give us a rule book, give us something. But then apparently they did. I mean, I do believe that about all religions now, that all these saints, or Jesus, Muhammad, who are the other, I don't know, all these Buddha, they all came and tried to give us guidance, and all that happened is mankind turned that into some fucking ritual and turned it into a religion and started killing for it, instead of just going, whereas actually they're saying is just love, man, be yourself, love yourself, love each other.
They turned it into the patriarchy, Kate. It's her favorite word.
Bastards.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Good times.
Oh, well, Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah.
It is a time, actually, isn't it? There's typically this time of year that we all start to look at what we should be doing better and how we do things differently. So I think we both want to encourage you to just not do that. Just don't. I mean, look at things you want to do, sure, but don't beat yourself up over all the things you did or didn't achieve, because it doesn't matter. I had a very interesting dog this morning. It was actually a lady in New York, and it was like 5 a.m. and I just assumed she'd made a mistake because it's 10 o'clock for me. So I'd sent her emails, got her on WhatsApp. Please, can you confirm that this is what you expected? I thought, well, and she hadn't received any of them. Kudos to her. Apparently she just doesn't use email and stuff like that. I was like, right on, lady. But of course, I'm at 10 o'clock, I'm sitting there not, doing something else, really not expecting her to show up. And of course she showed up. Anyway, so it was a really nice reading, but her dog was just doing that. Like, he was going like, you humans are so wrapped up in doing, and all we care is about you being. Just being yourself is the gift. It's not what you do, it's who you are. It's just such a beautiful message for this time of year. We are just, I don't like the phrase you are enough, because I don't feel like it's big enough, because I think we're all more than enough. I think we're all fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the Happy New Year message.
That's wonderful. Yeah,
Thank you, Julie.
you're welcome.
It's a funny old world, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We do just see, because the thing isn't, and you'll know this, Julie, when we go through this, like when you said about no blame, is when you look at all this stuff and you realize how much behavior you do that's unconscious, it gives you so much more compassion for the people around you who may have hurt you, but they're all dealing with their own shit. You know, when my mother could not give and receive love because maybe it was never shown to her. I'm not really sure. I suspect my mum, as we've talked about, has a personality disorder, undiagnosed borderline personality disorder. When I look at my grandfather, almost certainly Asperger's or Asperger's or personality disorder, because in a very different way. Well, I don't know. I know very little about him, but it's so obvious from what I know that he was at this. So he would have been in the same situation of not being unable or just incapable. Like, I don't think my mom she just doesn't have it in her. Like, she loves as much as is possible for her, but she just doesn't have she has very blunt tools, I think someone told me, and I thought that was a nice way of putting it. Doesn't have it. And my father was incapable for different reasons, because he was very, very hurt as a child. He wasn't abandoned, but he was fostered. Well, I suppose he was abandoned then, wasn't he? You know, so he was given up by his father when his mother left. So he was incapable and he adored his family, but he still wasn't able to show any love. He might have loved us fiercely, but he kept it all inside, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
you know, what do? You just have to, and it does give you that perspective of, you know, we're all just doing our best. Well, most of us are. There are a few assholes out there, but even they're damaged people. We're all just trying to get along one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And on a happy note, should we wrap it up there, Julia? Or is there anything else you want to add?
No, just to give people a little idea of what a slick session would be like. Usually they last about an hour. So that would have more time, but just to give an idea so that you, Kate, so that you had a better understanding of giving and receiving as it related to Not Loveable.
That's the big one coming up at the moment, isn't it? Unloveable. A lot of my other workarounds I think it was of not worthy and not good enough, are actually workarounds for not being lovable. It's complicated stuff. It's not that complicated. Don't let that put you off. When you're actually unraveling it, what normally happens is you get there's just a sense of relief almost that you can feel. It's like, oh, okay. And it's just having that awareness that then loosens it all off and stops forcing that unconscious behavior, shall we say, because you can become more conscious of it and understand why you're doing it. Great stuff. Shall I talk us out?
Yes, please.
Oh, go for a little snooze now. It's emotional stuff there. Yeah. So I'm Kate Fogger. This is Julie Hurt. We have been and will always be. Will we always be? Well, we certainly are at the moment, making light. You can follow us on Facebook and on YouTube and on Instagram. But if you follow us, you can follow us here on YouTube to get notified of new episodes. If you follow us on Facebook and Instagram, you can get us as a podcast. Sorry, this isn't very slick at all, is it? We are also available on podcast from your favorite podcast provider. If you have any comments, any suggestions, anything you'd like us to talk about, please do add in the comments here. And we will certainly discuss them. We'd love to hear from you. So wishing you all a very happy new year, 2024, I think we're at. And just go and chill, man. Don't need New Year's resolutions other than I'm going to be as fabulous as always this year.